Right, good morning everyone. Thanks for being here. We'll get started here. Today is the 21st day of August 2014. This is a special call meeting to deal with an individual subject, and we'll begin with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for a new day. Thank you for this chance to gather together to do county business. We turn the meeting over to you, ask that you would steer us and guide us to make wise decisions here on behalf of the county and our taxpayers, our employees. We thank you for your presence here, and we just trust you for everything. We pray for our servicemen and women. We pray for all the conflicts going on across this entire world, Lord, and just ask that you help us make sense of it and to know what to do as a nation. We thank you for sending your Son to die for us, and it's in his name that we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item number 1 to get started, I'll ask for public comments or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Anybody fill out a form or request to speak? All right, we'll move on to our other and only item, that is consider and possibly make changes to retiree health insurance policy. This was tabled from our August 8th meeting. And based on a conversation I had yesterday with some folks, let me clarify what we're discussing today, just so there's no misunderstanding. We are not talking about county retirement. In other words, the retirement that I equate with TCDRS, Texas County and District Retirement System. We're not talking about anything that has any effect on that, ages or length of service or computation of eligible retirement age. We are talking simply about the policy that allows retirees who meet the terms of retirement per that definition in the county policy manual to have their health insurance premiums paid by the county from the time that they retire until age 65 when their Medicare kicks in. So if there was any misunderstandings, I apologize for that. I'm even reading Lou's article in the paper this morning, and he seemed to be confusing the two. We are not talking about retirement benefits related to our county and district retirement system. We are only talking about this unique policy within Titus County where retirees have the benefit of having health insurance premiums paid for them. Everybody clear on that? Just want to make sure. Let me go over again what I have laid out as what I believe are the questions we're considering today. And I gave you a list of this at the last time, and I've provided you another list today. Number 1, will those that are, these are questions I think all of which we need to have answered. Will those that are currently eligible for retirement be allowed to remain under the current policy? In other words, if there's an employee who right now could retire today and meet the definition of retirement and start having the county pay for those health insurance premiums, do you want to make any change to those people if they are currently eligible right this moment? Item number 2 is, what is your target minimum retirement age? Right now, the issue at hand, as I understand it, is we did not set a minimum retirement age, and therefore an employee who started young and has worked here a long time could retire at quite an early age, as early as 49 years old. I believe we've got 1 or 2 that would meet that requirement here in just a few years. They could retire from the county at 49. We would be responsible for paying their insurance premiums until So age 65, 15 years. And that also includes their right to purchase reduced cost dependent coverage for a spouse. And as we know, the older a person gets, at least theoretically, that's when those health problems begin, and therefore you're looking at the most vulnerable time of a person's life until Medicare kicks in the county. Because of our self-funded status, those are direct costs to the county in the event of health problems with that retiree or their dependent. Item number 3, do you wish to completely eliminate well, let me go back to that. What's your target minimum age? Right now, there is not one. The youngest that I'm aware of is a 49-year-old. Do you want to shoot for 55, 58, 60, 62, or 65, which would effectively do away with it because we only cover up to age 65 right now. So you're either going to back off of that and make them eligible for 2, 3, 4, 5 years where they have health insurance coverage, or you're going to eliminate it altogether. The city of Mount Pleasant uses a minimum age of 58 years old. Item number 3, do you wish to completely eliminate retiree insurance for those that are not grandfathered, if you choose to grandfather in some or all of the current employees? In other words, no insurance benefits are received after the date that they retire. Number 4, how many years of service do you feel should be grandfathered if you are going to make changes and require a minimum age? How much of a commitment do you feel to employees that are quickly approaching being eligible for retirement? In other words, are they 1, 2, 5, 6 years away from that goal that they've been supposedly working toward for many years? Are you going to remove that future benefit from them? Item 5 is, could the county purchase individual Blue Cross type health insurance policy with similar or even different coverages for retirees rather than allowing them to remain under our self-funded plan? Here you may face the situation of higher premium costs, but you would be protecting yourself from huge health claims in our self-funded status. Again, we do not simply pay a premium to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Blue Cross provides whatever claims are needed by that particular employee. We allocate a calculated amount for each employee and each dependent that goes into a fund. And from that fund, all of our health insurance premiums are paid. It may go towards a 6-figure cancer claim, or it may go towards a healthy person who literally has no medical expenses during the year. And the idea is that if we put in an equal amount for everybody, that amount as a pool should cover all of those claims. You get into a bad year where you've got multiple people that are facing serious health consequences, and you can overspend that fund in a year, requiring you to feed it more in the upcoming years. Or you can have a good year like we had last year where you don't spend as much as you allocated towards that fund. But anytime you're in a self-funded plan, you run the risk of there being large large health claims related to that person. And again, the older a person gets, we would assume the vulnerability increases there. If we went to a Blue Cross type policy, we would at least protect ourselves from those huge claims. You would pay, maybe instead of paying $750 a person as we do now, maybe you have to pay $1,500 or even more for that employee who is a retiree. But if they had a huge health claim come along, we wouldn't be responsible for more than what our premiums cost us. Item number 6, should the retiree's spouse or family be included in the retiree health insurance benefit? Should it be eliminated? Should they be charged a higher cost for that dependent? And item number 7, should this change be phased in or changed immediately across the board? Do you want to pick a minimum age at retirement, a minimum number of years of service? Those are all factors we need to consider. And again, I've provided you with a chart that has a relatively short number of entries on it, giving you a list of, without providing names, some situations that we have here showing you just how quickly somebody could retire in the event they opted to retire. These charts do not include employees that have already met the retirement eligibility requirements regardless of their age. I assumed you would not want to take this away, but I do have an expanded list right here that's about 3 pages long of the people that would be affected by that if you wanted to encompass everyone and just make a clean cut right now and stop all retiree insurance benefits for those employees somewhere down the road. I've also have not included employees with less than 10 years of service, thinking that maybe you would not feel as much obligation to someone who had put in less than 10 years for the county. But again, on my expanded list, I have included all of those as well. So, we can begin the conversation wherever you like.
When you get through, I'd like to say
I'm done.
And I'm not sure when I read the paper yesterday if I understood this exactly what Luna was going to do. My understanding was that the appraisal board rejected their offer. Is that right?
That is correct.
Is that right?
I won't tell you what's going to happen from here going on, but it is my belief that the appraisal board rejected Luminant's offer that I believe the taxing entities had come to an agreement within themselves that they would consider settling at a lesser amount. I have not talked to a single board member that is on my list of to-dos today. I just want to kind of get an idea of what they're thinking, because I've been working on this for about 6 weeks and was quite surprised at their decision.
I understood that. But my whole point is that if this thing goes to court and their valuation will drop way down, and we're going to be put in a pretty stiff.
You are correct.
And we're looking at something here that's going to cost us a lot of money, could cost us lots of money. So I think we need to take all that into effect. Whatever we do here, we need to think about what the tax rate's going to be at some point. That's what I think.
And continuing to do nothing only prolongs that impact.
True.
Something needs to be done, even if you didn't, from one end of the spectrum, don't change anything for anybody currently working for the county. Well, then you're not going to have anybody upset with you, and you just change the policy for any new employee after, say, September 1 of this year. Or you find a happy medium and you phase it in based upon certain criteria, or you just say, absolutely, as of today, we do away with it. It's going to be somewhere in that spectrum.
I agree we need to do something, and that's what I'm saying. We need to be pretty careful as to what we do. That's my opinion. Could be stuck with pretty big expenditure always.
And give me an idea of what you're kind of thinking. How do you feel about making changes to those that have already met the requirement and are eligible today to be able to retire and receive full health benefits until they turn 65?
I'll tell you what's been told to me by some people that's not associated with the county. They don't really care if we give our people retirement.
Health insurance retirement. Let's not confuse anybody on.
I stated that wrong. We did that last week. We had them both confused. They don't really, the ones that's talking to me and said something to me, they're not really concerned about people retiring, us paying, them paying for their insurance. And that's what I want.
And this is a benefit that is seldom found in anything except government.
Right, and I'm sitting here advocating to do away with everything. I'm just telling you what I heard. It's been told to me. Now, I don't know about anybody else, if they've had anybody say anything to them or not.
Okay.
I suggest that we do these one at a time. One of these questions, take the 1, 2, 3, do them one at a time and discuss each item that you've listed in that.
Okay. That's a good way to do it. I agree. Anybody else want to make an opening statement before we start addressing them with these one at a time?
Judge, I've thought about this long and hard. I think we ought to leave everybody alone the way it is, and then start at a specific point. From that point forward, then we change it from there. Because everybody that's been employed, that is employed with the county, this is what they're working for. So
I'm sure they're
well,
Just to be sure I understand what you're saying is, you don't, even if we have an employee that has been here for 1 year and is 25 years away from retirement, you don't want to change even how it affects them?
the more I've thought about it, is that that's what a lot of them come to work here for. I mean, probably not everybody, but the majority of them, that's what they come here for, the benefits. You know, they have the opportunities to go in other places. But I believe that those will be dedicated enough to stay here with it and work, and even if work past their retirement date. So I just think we need to go ahead and keep it the way it is, and then set it up to say October 1st or January 1st. Make it stated that anybody hired after this date will get no health benefits.
I think you need to leave some of these that's come to work the last 2 or 3 years. I think you need to leave it in there.
Well, he's voicing his opinion, and we'll kind of work down the road, but you're kind of at one end of the spectrum I was describing, where if you made that decision, all of your current employees would say, hey, that's fine with me. It has no impact on me. I don't care what you do to the next guy that comes along and gets hired. Okay. Commissioner Fields, do you have anything you want to say?
I agree with Philip on this. When people go to work here, they go, one of the big parts is not necessarily the salary, but the benefits that you have. People's been told this, and a lot of them make that decision to go here. And at some point in time, if they stay here in the time of the system, we've had a lot of people through the years that's done that. Some at a very young age. They fall under that retirement. We've had others start at a young age. 2 or 3 years, they find something else and they go somewhere else. Now, one thing I do think, if a person qualifies for retirement and they retire and they go out here and they get another job, and offers insurance, they should have to take that insurance because they're not retired anymore as far as I'm concerned. Employees I've talked to didn't have a problem with that. If they were retired, they work somewhere else, they got insurance. They got insurance or somebody working part-time, that would be fine. But, I think county employees, we really have good employees, and I think they do a good job. The benefits and one of the packages makes them decide where they want to work here in the county or not work here in the county. I know the city does, it puts insurance to you.
But not if you retire before you're 58 years old. Have I made that clear? That's how the city does it. Is you can't have a situation, the most the city is liable for is 7 years, ages 58 through 65. If somebody was eligible to retire at 50, they wouldn't have their health insurance paid from 50 to 58.
everybody's got that rule of 75, which I understand that's what kind of what we're talking about, but I'm just saying they work for that. That's what they, in my mind, that's what they work for. And that's what we have in our handbook, the rule of 75, so that's what everybody's been going by. And,
Most of them are
they look,
they didn't, they were not time for really company. They were looking for a job.
And that's been my experience in talking to some employees, is they honestly didn't even know that that was a benefit when they came to work here. So my obligation to that young person that's been here 20 years and that person who's been here 2 years, in my mind, doesn't even compare. Anyway, would you have anything else? Okay, Commissioner Riddle.
Well, I believe the first question was about the people who started retirement, and I believe we should leave those people alone. I kind of looked at it. I think we should phase in the minimum age of retirement. And I've got a little chart there that they tell me. And then also the people that would be affected. The list that you gave us last week, I would work. It would affect about about all if we phased it in like this. 2015, the years or so, if somebody's got in 20 years, their minimum age of retirement would be 54 years. And that would affect just a few people. Then on down the line, then it works its way up by 2021, 60 years old minimum age. The reason 60, they got 58. This is a 401k plan as far as I know. So if you draw your money out and start drawing retirement before you're 59 and a half years old, you have to pay a penalty. Plus, when I start paying taxes on it, you're going to have to do that anyhow. But there's a penalty involved if you start drawing it before 59 and a half years old. The way I understand the IRS, this district that I said is the same as they don't call it 401k.
Who's backfiring on us here?
except they're on the podium.
Would you turn that mic off on the podium and see if that has a positive effect on us? Well, it's got to be picking up on a mic. Would you turn that one off and just see if that has any impact? This right here? Sure. Would you make us maybe about 7 copies of that?
Thought I had that one up. Take that.
So what you're saying, I don't think that that's accurate. The employees would be taxed. Do you send a W-2 to those employees that are retired? No, I'm talking about how are they taxed, if any, on our paying for their health insurance premiums?
They're not taxed. Yeah, they're not taxed on that, but they might be under this Obamacare. But anyway, the
what Al is saying is he's saying for most people that draw their retirement before they're 59 and a half, they have to pay a penalty for going to work.
True.
I don't think that's the case with Texas retirement system. If you meet the rule of 75, because they don't let you don't have an option to take this on something. You take it.
you don't.
That's under a 401k that he mentioned is true, but not under RTCDRS.
If you take 401k on a monthly pay, you certainly pay a penalty before you're 59.
Unless you draw under there's 2 systems. One is you draw early, another if you take a periodic annual.
Well, I called down there and they said that they'd like a 401k. In other words, it would be so they had another number. 404, I didn't write it down, 404 or something like that.
What does this have to do with the subject that we're talking about? That's where I'm confused about.
Most people are going to retire at 59 and a half. I mean, they should wait till they're 59 and a half to avoid paying that penalty, because this is dollars that they haven't paid taxes on, and they're going to have to start paying taxes, but they don't have other income, so it's a cheaper rate. So most people are going to wait that long. So if we phased in this until they're 60 years old and put the minimum wage of 60 to retire, it would affect a very small amount of people. If we started like 2015 for 1 year, and 1 year to make the minimum wage 54, start off with 54 for 2015. Leave the other people alone. 2016, if you got 19 years service, 55 years of age and at 2021 we'd get to 60. And if you take the list that you have, the people that it would affect it would be a very few amount of people that it would affect. That according to this, I've got about now this is sorted by years of service, the one that you gave us by years of service, and I put the age that they would have to be that it would affect. In other words, the 55, the first one was 3/31 of 2016. He'll be eligible to retire. 49.6. Now it would affect him. He'd have to wait till he's 55 on that person. But he's already retired anyhow. He's got 27 years in. It would be a.
Well, this is, if you'll recall, a year ago, this is a suggestion that I had made, that we start in 2014 making the minimum age 54. We matched 4 with 4, and then in 55 years of age starting in 15. So very similar to what we had discussed last year. I see a lot of merit in this. I'm not sure how the years of service, if you're going to establish a minimum age, I don't know how years of service plays into this deal.
If the rule of 75, and we've adopted that, the rule of 75, if your years and your age add up to the rule of 75, you can retire. You don't.
And we're not changing retirement. We're changing.
What the state set up.
Well, we can do whatever we want with our health insurance. We are not talking about retirement. I want to be sure that we don't get these two issues confused, but it sure has been confusing to our employees. We're not talking about the county and district retirement system.
Let me say, the state, their retirement system is set up where you have what you pay in interest, and it's invested. It's invested by our teacher retirement system. If you decide to quit at 30 and you've got 10 years in, you can take your money out, you get the interest. What the county has paid, you don't get, period, because you're withdrawing your retirement. That retirement that you pay in is yours. That's your money, and interest that money has made over a period of time. So if you leave, now you're going to have to pay taxes on that money because you hadn't paid taxes putting it in that retirement system. But the county's money stays in the retirement system. It doesn't go with that individual. The stair-stepping is not, it's not a bad idea. But at the same time, I look at these, and a lot of people that go to work here have an opportunity to maybe work somewhere else, maybe not, I don't know. But I'm saying that would be a decisive thing for me if I was a job come opening and I was looking at long-term, looking at retirement and stuff down the road. Most of the time young people are not looking at that. They think they might be there, but they may not. I don't know. But the people that are here and doing the job, and I think as you look through this and stuff, we've got some people that's been here 10, 15 years and have done a good job for us. And this is a reward for them for being a good, loyal employee. And if we're going to change it, hey, let's change it to something similar to what he's looking at here. I don't know if we need to use this age or not, but we need to decide something on this. But it's I like this concept that you have here.
Question, when the 7% that you take out of employees' check that goes to the retirement now, I know it's not retirement, but it's not, you don't tax that.
No, that's a deduction.
Pay Social Security and Medicare, you don't take out income.
It's treated like you made a contribution to a 401k.
Right, that's right. Okay, that.
W-2 is actually taxable. W-2 is reduced by this.
I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that under a 401k situation, there's a built-in incentive for somebody to keep working until 59 and a half. In our situation, we don't have penalties that are going to be placed on the retirement income of a person that chooses to retire at 50 years of age. They'll be taxed on their retirement income at normal IRS rates, but there's not going to be a penalty in addition to that. So there's not a built-in incentive for our employees to work to 59 and a half.
Are you sure about that penalty?
I think that's right now, because it works just like teacher retirement. Those teachers qualify for retirement, they will retire at 65. My understanding is they'll start drawing their monthly teacher retirement check, and it's not subject to any early withdrawal penalties. They only get to draw the monthly. They don't have an option of give me $200,000 and then I'll float it over to an IRA. So they don't have that option. They have to take it as a monthly payment, and that's the only way they can get it. It works the same for us, and if they die when they're 65, those payments stop. So they may never get all of their money. They do have the option of taking smaller amounts and letting their spouse survive them on the payments. But the only way they can draw all their money out is to live long enough to draw it out by the month.
Well, I talked to somebody, and I don't know their name, and they said it was just like a 401k. They called it a 404 or something like that. But it works just like it. And I said, it's not taxed until you draw it, right? And it's not taxed. And I said, early withdrawal, and they said, yeah. I mean, they said that. It was some girl, lady. I didn't get her name. I didn't write it down.
But I think the judge is right. I don't think there's the additional
Well, that's a good question.
penalty for drawing early like
I know there's not. I know there's not.
I really don't think it has anything to do with what we're gonna do though.
No, but I think what Al was saying was we could set the age to 60 because
Right.
they're not going to take their retirement until they're 60 because they don't want to pay that penalty.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's applicable in our situation. But I'll
We don't
check
pay a
that.
penalty.
The teacher the retired teachers that I do their income tax returns and stuff, there's nothing in there that they draw the 459, they're paying a penalty on drawing that, so. They just give the teacher retirement 1099 and report it as income.
Let me go back to a
That's
They do draw less money. I mean, there is an incentive to stay longer because the longer you stay in the program, the bigger that monthly check will be. So there's always that incentive to stay. The problem that you run into, the problem I have with what Mike was talking about is they probably won't quit when they're 49 and never work again. They'll quit the county and start drawing retirement and go somewhere else and work. I don't have any way of tracking that. There's no way I can keep up with whether somebody that quit working here 5 years ago has gone and got a job somewhere and stayed on our insurance. I mean, you can try to track it down and give them a questionnaire, but I guess.
Well, I guarantee you, they're always going to get that check deposited somewhere or a check to them, and you'll know where they live.
It's very hard for anybody to retire at 49 and stay retired and live off of just a retirement, whether it's Social Security or unless they're disabled or something. And that's a different set of circumstances.
Well, but you're right. They're working somewhere else and saying, I don't need your insurance. I've got some wonderful county insurance that's I'm eligible for. Let me ask you this question. If somebody did retire at 60 years of age and we're continuing to fund on their behalf $750 a month and they're continuing to receive those health insurance benefits, is there no taxable income impact to them?
It has to be taxed. I'll double check how that's working, but it would have to be.
You'd think somewhere it'd be taxable.
I need to check. We've gone through an IRS audit on our payroll. I've gone through 2 of them.
Well, I don't know how they could be being taxed unless it was W-2 income. So do we have W-2s going out to people that are no longer on the payroll?
Yeah, there is some instance for retirees are getting, I'll have to check and see how that works. It is also possible that because it is a benefit offered to every employee of the company, that it is a tax-free benefit, because that's the way it is now for anybody that works here. We don't tax them on those insurance. If we only provide it to a percentage of the people that work here, then that would be part of their compensation package. But if you offer it to everybody, it is a tax-free benefit, so maybe it's falling under that. I'll double check. There are some instances where we have to send some stuff out to retirees. So
Okay.
I'll check and see how this works.
Let me go back to your chart here, just so that I understand it. Let's take a look at that first line, calendar year 2015. You're suggesting a minimum age to retire of 54.
Right.
You've also got a column there, years of service. Tell me how that years of service affects that 54 minimum age. I'm not sure that I understand how those play together. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, the
Well, what
20
he's basically saying here, if you got 20 years
of service.
of service and your
Retire
age,
next year.
you can retire.
And next
What if
year-
you don't have 20 years of service?
Well, if you don't have, you don't, it's still going to be 54 years, I guess, 54 years old at 20.
Well, I guess you wouldn't meet the requirement of 75 would be one problem that would keep you from being able to do that anyway. I mean, you've got to have years of service plus age that equals 75. So I don't know that we need this years of service column on your chart here. I think that that's going to naturally take care of itself based on the definition of the rule of 75.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. I did it because I just picked out the few people that it would
Okay.
affect, that would have retired at 40.
I wanted to be sure you weren't saying that if you did have more than 20 years of service, that we would still continue to let you retire at whatever age you want. That's not
right.
what you meant.
That is confusing. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I shouldn't have.
Well, let me just read this. This is what Commissioner Riddle has presented. All the employees that have already reached eligibility requirements to retire right now, leave them alone. No changes. A plan to phase in the employees in the retirement plan for health insurance that have reached the required 8 years to qualify for retirement. That's not going to change. You have to have a minimum of 8 years service to the county to be able to get retiree insurance. Recommend a minimum retirement age to retain health care be phased in as follows. If an employee has the following years of service during the calendar years listed below, the minimum age to retire would increase each year. So essentially what we're saying is we're going to phase in the minimum age requirement until we hit 60. And then from then on, you've got to be a minimum of 60, you've got to be at least 60 years of age before you start receiving county health insurance benefits. In addition to all the other existing rules that are in effect right now. 8 years, rule of 75.
You said this year of service didn't make any difference. We got one just retired that would make a difference with. Because he only has 8 years and only 62, so I think you're going to have the years of service.
Anybody that's currently eligible.
But that doesn't make him eligible if we go to the rule of 75.
Is currently eligible.
No, he wouldn't be eligible either under the current policy or under this policy. He's not.
He thinks he is, and somebody told him he was. He's done retired now.
You that make the rule of 75?
He thinks he's got his health insurance
Yes.
covered?
Yes. I don't know where he got that information. Somebody told him he was eligible.
I think it's a big misunderstanding all the way down the line there.
Well, I think that is too, but I think we can clearly back up the policy has not changed. I don't know that at any time in the last, long as I can remember, that he would have been eligible to retire without meeting the rule of 75. I mean, if you said that he was eligible, then anybody that worked 8 years would be eligible.
Somewhere put a, you got a minimum.
Well, he's just he's misinformed, unfortunately. What do you all think about this phase-in? I think the only thing that I would suggest doing different here is maybe matching up 55 with 15 and 56 with 2016. But I mean, we can do it any way that you want.
Talking about moving the 55 up to the 215.
Just because it's easier to remember. But we could leave it this way. Leave it at 54. He's carefully looked at how many people are impacted by this, and he's saying that come January 1 of 2015, during that calendar year, if you chose to retire, you better be 54 years of age. And then in January 1 of 2016. Matthew, did you have a question? Okay. And then once we got to 2021, you would have to be, everyone would have to be 60 years of age. Now, looking at this list here, here's one, let's see. I'm trying to see about how many people. For example, this 49-year-old is eligible to retire 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, this 49-year-old could retire, and you would be taking this benefit away from them. They would be eligible to retire here in a year and a half, and they would have health insurance benefits for 15 years. And so that would be one person that would potentially be upset by this, because you're then telling them, nope, you've got to be a minimum of 55 years old to retire. But other than that, I don't see a lot of people that are going to be impacted by this. You've got a handful of people, but that's why I think it's a reasonable plan.
That's age, and I'll put the years there, but 54 would change, 55 would change, and that's. Not as many.
Philip, is that something you'd consider, or do you still think we need to leave it alone for every current employee?
Still mulling it over.
I think this is a reasonable suggestion here, so I guess, do you want to go back and deal with these other questions one at a time, or do you want to ponder this suggestion here, this phase-in over the next 6 years?
That's just something to start with. That's some ideas that I think would.
Well, let's go back and just, maybe this will help us. Is there anybody that would change the policy for those that have already met all eligibility requirements? I don't think that there is. All right, that takes care of number one.
Eligible retirement.
What's your target minimum age requirement? Commissioner Riddle has stated his choice would be 60 years of age.
My choice would be 58.
Commissioner feels as 58. I would like to see it at least 60, if not a little bit higher. Based on what you were telling me, you would like to, well, if you were to say it only affects new employees, what would you do to that policy for an employee that started after we made this change?
58.
58.
58.
Match it similar to the city.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Hockaday, what do you think?
I would say 60.
Okay, so we're all pretty close together on that, 58, 60 years of age. Doesn't seem to be an area of contention.
The reason I say 58 is because that's what the city has, is 58.
Okay. So item number 3 then takes care of itself. Do you wish to completely eliminate retiree insurance? No, you're just saying we want to make a minimum retirement age. How many years of service should be grandfathered in? That becomes a moot point if you simply say we're going to phase in the minimum age.
Well, that's the reason I put the years of service on that, the time. But
Well, you've put that in there, but because we've already got a policy that says you must have age plus years of service equal at least 75. So if we don't change that policy, that automatically meets your criteria there. Here's an important one to me. On item number 5, should the county, let's say that we do make a change to this and we do continue to provide benefits to those, let's say we establish 60 as a minimum retirement age. That means you're vulnerable for 5 years there, 60 to 65 for all these retirees. Would you want to consider the county being able to purchase a Blue Cross type insurance policy with a fixed premium for these employees rather than leaving them under our county self-funded plan?
Judge, I would not. Because the reason why is because of the pool that you have. Just because you're 62, 63, 64, you're relatively pretty healthy at that age. To me, I don't think that's old. So your health problems and stuff, but the more you have in the pool, the more money you have to help pay those bills when you get that year like we had the year before last. This last year we had a great, past year we had a great year. The year before we had was not a good year. And through the years, if you continue to put that money in there, it should build up, and we have insurance that kick in. I think when you take that out, that lessens the pool, and you have less money to pay bills with. So I'd rather see it stay in there, because to me, from 60 to 65 is still you're relatively pretty healthy to me overall.
Well, I think that the actuarial people would strongly disagree with that. If you go and try to buy your own individual health insurance policy at age 60, 62, you'll be astounded at the cost of a health insurance policy, much less life insurance. So I'm saying that regardless of how healthy you or any of our 62-year-old employees might be, the odds are that that is a real liability, an unfunded liability for the county if we hang on to those folks.
What if you have this person that's been here 25, 30 years, and they've had very little expense health-wise besides just regular tests? They've been here 30 years. Their money has helped pay for all these other people that's been sick, and they've used it very little, and you're going to say, well, you're this age, we're going to punish you.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to punish them. I'm saying we're going to give them a different type of policy. Very few people in the Titus County are covered by a self-funded insurance plan. I bet you there's, a couple of hundred at best. I don't know of any self-funded plans in town. Do you, Carl? I mean, most of the world lives with a Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Aetna type of policy.
I go in, I've been in different doctor's office, and they say no Blue Blue Cross Blue Shield accepted here. So
Well, I'm just calling it that as a generic name, a fixed monthly premium type of a policy.
Let me ask a question. We talk about this self-funded, and this is a gamble all along, because we talk about we had a bad year and a good year. I'd like to know exactly how much we went over. I've heard several different numbers. The bad year, a couple of years ago, I know $300,000 or $400,000. Was it?
Three is what I recall.
We do have catastrophic coverage that kicks in. It's over
55,000.
Now, they can, the next year, their terminology is laser. They can laser those people to where they will.
Will you grab that mic? Because you've got some comments. Just take that whole thing.
We have the catastrophic coverage that keeps us from, if it's a $500,000 claim, we're limited to the first $50,000, and then that secondary insurance kicks in and covers that. But there are a couple of caveats to that. One is, I think they only have to do that on 3. Isn't that what they told us the last time we talked to them about that? So if your 4th person ran a $500,000 open heart surgery procedure, we would have to pay all of those bills. Now, they will, at the same time, go in and work on the discounts and the discounted rates and all that. So maybe a $500,000 procedure bill ends up that we only have to pay $100,000 on it. But whatever it is, there's no limit other than the negotiated discount that you get in that. The second thing that can happen is if it's a cancer type situation where it's not going to be a one-time deal. It's not an open heart surgery. They may have $200,000 for several years because they have to keep having procedures done. They can laser those people off after the first year, and they won't be covered by that secondary insurance, and so we will have to pay all of those claims. So there are some things that can cause us to have to spend a couple of $100,000, and that's what happened in that one year. I think we had 3 or 4 cases, and one of them may have been lasered, and so we had to pay a couple of $100,000 extra in that year, and we had to pull the money out of general fund to do it. So
that could be $400,000 or $500,000.
I don't think it could be as high as 5, but I'm not going to tell you it could.
If you had 2 or 3 people,
it could be 2. In the past, it has been as high as a couple of $100,000 extra money.
But then we have a good year now. If the last meeting we had this year, we were catching up.
That's right.
That good year was so great year wasn't so great anymore. They were catching up to about where our premiums were.
Well, for last year, because the year before was such a good year, we didn't put any additional money in other than the $750 a month that we allocate per employee to go in there. In a lot of years, we would put the $750 per employee per month in there. In addition, we put another $125,000 a year, just extra money out of the general county over there to cover possible shortfalls. We did that for several years, but last year, because the year before had a surplus, we did not transfer that money. When we had our meeting the other day, it kind of showed that that number was going to stay flat. I think we started the year with maybe $300,000 in there, and it looks like we're going to finish the year with the same $300,000, which means the money that went in all got spent, but we didn't dip into the reserve money, for lack of a better word. But now this year, if I can, I'm planning on putting $100,000 back in there because we skipped a year doing that. Okay, we may not have to do that. If we don't, the court still needs to understand that if we get into a bad year, we'll have to pull the money out of the fund balance through an emergency budget amendment to cover it, because you have no choice but to pay the claim.
Yeah. Then that's really one of my concerns. Maybe we'd be better off getting Blue Cross Blue Shield for everybody.
The nice thing about the Blue Cross Blue Shield policies, even if they're $2,500 a person to cover them, and I think there's only 4 or 5 people right now that have this coverage that are retirees that qualify for this. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. Even if you have to pay.
I thought she said it was like 7. I thought.
It's not a lot. Yeah, somewhere in that range.
And remember, as they turn 65, they come off of that. So,
It's not gonna be something, it's gonna be the state.
right, but back to the point, even if we have to pay $2,000 per person for the insurance, you at least know what your cost is. Whereas the other way, we don't really know. If one of them had the open heart surgery, we could spend $200,000 on them.
Right. And that maybe all the employees should be under that plan.
Well, you know, and we talked to them about that the other day.
Yeah.
I ask them that every year, is being self-insured still, in Steve's opinion, Mr. Capps, that's who we rely on as our expert. Is this still the best policy for the county and, you know, money-wise? And he keeps saying it is. He said it again the other day that he thought this was
If you were to go to try and buy on the open market a policy with a $750 deductible, 90/10, $25 office copay, and $5 generic drugs, it would be double what our $750 per employee allotment. It may be triple.
It may be, Brian, but at least you know what your cost is.
I agree, but I want you to understand the good along,
Yes,
we're talking
right.
about the bad, understand the good. You know, when things are normal and you're not being beat up by a lot of high health claims, the self-funded plan has been very good to Titus County.
That's right. And we do have the secondary insurance, which protects us from a lot of large claims. We're only out, once we spend $50,000, the secondary insurance kicks in.
And I'm looking for ways that we can make changes to ensure that we be able to continue to provide a wonderful benefit in the form of health insurance and take away a benefit that I don't think would be perceived as a real negative by the employees. I think you're taking away a real potential unfunded liability by limiting these retirement ages without upsetting the apple cart too much. We just don't have a real good feel as to what these early retirees could cost our plan if we don't establish some kind of boundaries.
When we talk about 65, getting off of our plan, but now if they get to be 65, they can do the COBRA. You know, if they have a real health
Well,
problem,
they've got Medicare then.
they still can do the COBRA.
Okay.
Because you can't deny that. They can do the COBRA and we still got them on our plan.
Yeah, but that COBRA's so expensive, I don't know.
That's right, but it may be cheaper than having to.
You're telling me something I didn't know.
Medicare, I wouldn't think so.
Huh?
Not if they qualify for Medicare, I wouldn't think so. I would think they'd rather be on Medicare.
How many places are taking Medicare now? You can go to the doctor's office right now, and they've got signs, and a lot of them, they don't take Medicare anymore.
Well, you sure it's Medicare or Medicaid?
Medicare.
Yeah, I'm on it. I don't have insurance from the county. I'm on Medicare, but
Do you run into any obstacles with your Medicare?
well, not yet.
Any doctors that would,
And changed
I just had
doctors.
one tell me in the next year he'd quit taking it.
I hadn't changed doctors, so I guess they're still taking me. But
Well, I
no
would
new
think-
patients with. I've seen that sign. Maybe Meriwether has it. No new patients for Medicare or something like that. I've seen the
Putting that up
sign.
everywhere.
Maybe I saw it in Dallas. I don't know. I've seen that sign, but it was new patients. They'll take care of the ones they have.
Taking care of the ones they got, and a lot of them are phasing it out over the next year. We're talking about something that can cost lots of money too. You know, it's cost the county and taxpayers a lot of money. And I'm not advocating doing away with it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we need to be thinking, do a lot of thinking before we make a lot of change. Or do whatever changes we make, we need to put a lot of thought into them.
Well, I think that this is a good proposal here. I think it's relatively simple. I think the negative impact is minimal, and I think the potential cost savings to the county is tremendous, and therefore I think that it's a good
If we adopt this, that takes care of this whole list over here just about, doesn't it?
Right. Well, the only question you'd have is whether, even if you adopt this, you can still choose to buy a separate policy.
Yeah.
And then secondarily to that, was your last question whether you want to continue to cover their dependents, which in the case of retiree is going to almost always be the spouse. I mean, I don't think they're going to have children for the most part living at home if they're 58, usually.
I don't know. I wouldn't guarantee.
No, you can't guarantee it, but usually they won't. They could have grandkids that live with them or something.
I don't understand what are you saying here. What are you talking about?
Well, I thought that was your last item, was a question about whether to continue to cover. Was numbers, I don't have a sheet.
Number 6. We're jumping to the next subject without finishing one at a time, but number 6 is, should a retiree's spouse and family be included in the retiree health insurance benefit? We know that we're providing dependent coverage at a cost that is really not sufficient to adequately pay for that spouse or child or both. For example, a spouse and a child right now costs the employee about $375 a month.
Right.
When we're setting aside $750 a month for the employee.
Right.
So there's a huge shortfall there.
What does the city do about their
There's about like ours.
spouses? How do they handle that?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, but I can guarantee you it's a heavier cost
That's what I'm
than
thinking.
ours.
Somebody told me it was pretty expensive.
I had those figures, Tom, but I don't have them here. Now, remember, the city is not on a self-insured plan either.
Right.
They're a Blue Cross type of plan.
But it would work the same way. If
Yeah.
it's self-insured,
Yeah.
somebody's got to pay that premium.
I had those figures. I don't. I'd have to get them back to you. But that is a separate question, just like whether to buy a separate policy is a separate question. It sounds like y'all are on the first part almost ready to make a motion on the retirement age to be eligible, but you do have the other two issues that you can address or not address now or address next year, or leave them alone, or whatever you want to do.
Emily?
I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Shout a little louder.
Okay.
I couldn't hear
A
you.
little closer.
Well, basically, there's three different questions to ask. It seems like y'all have about reached a consensus possibly on the fact that you're going to set a minimum retirement age to be eligible. The second question is going to be, for the retirees, are we going to keep them in the self-insured plan or buy a separate plan for them, a separate policy for them? And then the third question is going to be, are we going to continue to allow them to cover their spouses, dependents, at the same rate we allow the employees, which is about $300 a month?
I think that should be they should have to pay more on us.
In other words, for clarification, for an employee, the premiums at Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't know what it is X amount of dollars, $450, $500, whatever it is a month.
Right.
The employee with dependents is $750 a month.
Right.
So the cost with dependents, then he can decide if he wants to put dependents on it or not. But he pays for the cost of the dependents.
That's right.
Same as us.
And they do that here, too.
Right, okay.
They pay part of the cost, a small percentage.
He don't pay that extra from $359 for the employee to the $750 for the employee with dependents.
Well, the employee's part, even at the city, is paid for by the city. And in our case, we're paying for the employees. It's the extra part that's for the dependent coverage that at the city the employee pays for, and here the employee pays for. It's just our number is a number that we've come up with, and it's $250, $300, whereas I don't know what the number is at the city. It's based on the Blue Cross Blue Shield type policy they've got and what it says they have to pay.
No, I think the premium for an employee with dependents is more than an employee without dependents on that Blue Cross plan that city has.
It would be. It would be. And ours is too. We're paying $750 per employee, and we're paying $1,050 for an employee with a spouse, and the employee is paying the other $300. We're paying the $750, and they're paying the $300, and that's the money that's going into the insurance.
Are we not funding a full $750 on a spouse?
No.
No.
We're putting in. We're just putting in whatever the employee contributes.
Is that still ringing? Well, you know, the idea is a spouse and children. Those children are small users of the health insurance dollars, and therefore they shouldn't have the full $750 allocation. I don't know where the logic comes in of not fully funding a similarly aged spouse.
Well, I mean, it's just a number that we set arbitrarily, and like I said, all those monies go into there. Plus, in the past, we funded an extra $125,000 to cover whatever we thought we might be short anyway. So, but we don't charge the employee, but the $250 or the $300.
But the spouse now is going to be the same age as the retiree generally. I mean, there's not going to be
A couple of years difference,
not
maybe.
going to be kids, so you got.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about when you say it's going to be cheaper for the.
Well,
got the kids
you know, there's
in
a couple of other factors come into play. Most families now, the husband and the wife both work. In the past, maybe the wife or the spouse that wasn't the county employee worked somewhere where insurance wasn't offered. Under the Obamacare stuff, that scenario is going to go away one way or another. They're going to have insurance. Now, they can prove that they're on our insurance, and that satisfies it. And if they work for a large enough employer, that employer is going to have to provide that insurance to them. So there are ideally more options for the spouse to get insurance without going through us to get it. But you know.
Right, they still got the option of going through the.
But right now, they've got the option of going through the county, and they've got the option of, when they're retired, staying on the counties.
Well, for what it's worth, I'd like to see us eliminate that spouse-dependent coverage
For the retirees.
for new employees going forward.
You mean not offer them to?
In other words, grandfather anybody that's going to be eligible under this new modified plan. We continue to provide spouse and dependent benefits if they choose to pay
Are you
for
talking
it.
about just for the retirees? Or are you
Just for
talking
the
about-
retirees,
Okay.
yes. Just for the retirees. And again, I would say start that for any new employee hired after October 1 or whenever we put this into effect. Is we're no longer going to offer, even at a minimum age of 60, coverage for your spouse or dependents at a reduced rate. If you want to pay it at the full price for your spouse,
Which would be the COBRA rates.
even then, you're still opening yourselves up for, you know, higher claims on an older person.
Right. But I mean, I thought that's what you just said is, unless you want to do it at higher rates, are you just saying they can't be on our insurance
To keep
at
it
all?
simple, I'd say that spouse can't be on our insurance at all. We're going to pay for that. We're going to pay for that retiree, but not any benefits for any health insurance benefits for that retiree's spouse.
For new hires.
For new hires would be how I would do it. Why don't we tackle these one at a time? Why don't we go back and discuss the minimum retirement age? I'm just going to throw out a motion here. And that motion is going to be that effective October 1, 2014, that we have a phased-in minimum retirement age. Now, you can change these years if you want. I'm going to, just for simplicity, I'm going to make 2015, well, do we need to conclude 2014? Because we still got 3 months if I begin at October 1, or we could just say January 1.
Well, let me tell you how we do everything else. All of the insurance changes on January 1.
Okay, well, let's just keep it simple. Starting January 1 of 2015, you got to be 55 years of age to retire. 2016, during that entire calendar year, if you retire, you have to be 56. That's adding 1 year to Commissioner Riddle's chart. If you want to leave his chart the way that it is, fine, but that's my motion. And that we phase it in until we reach the minimum age of 60 years, which would take 5 years. 55, it takes 6 years. 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60.
Let me say this, Brian, just to make sure we're all on the same page. It's not that they're going to turn 55 during that year. They can't retire until their birthday when they turn 55. Would that not? I mean, that's how the regular retirement works. They can't do it until.
Say that again. What did you say?
Well, the way we're saying that in 2015 you would have to turn 55. If that person's birthday is not till May 1st, you could word it to where they could retire January 1st because during the year of 2015 they're going to turn 55. I think you want them to actually be 55.
That is what I intended.
Because that's the same way retirement works. They can't retire until their birthday when they actually turn that date, that age. So,
if you choose to retire during calendar year 2015, you must have reached your 55th birthday.
In order to qualify for the...
In order to receive the benefit of having your health insurance paid for by the county.
Okay.
That's my motion.
I second it.
Got a second by Commissioner Riddle. Discussion.
Say it one more time.
All right. The motion is that there will be a change in the employee health insurance benefit to retirees policy. And that change would be beginning January 1, 2015, and going forward. In 2015, anytime during that calendar year, if you choose to retire, you must have reached your 55th birthday in order to receive continued health insurance coverage paid for by the county. And then that will change annually on the first of the year during the calendar years. Let's see, 2015 will be 55, 2016 will be 56, 2017 will be 57, 2018 would be 58, 2019 you must be 59, and in 2020 on January 1, everybody goes to a permanent minimum age of 60 years. You must have reached your 60th birthday.
What about the rule of 75?
There's no change to that. No change to the rule of 75, no change to a minimum 8 years
This is just
of
an
service.
additional requirement.
This is an additional, we're piling on to those other layers already in existence.
Right. The only other thing you might want to put in your motion is that anybody that is eligible under the old plan on January 1st is grandfathered in. I think that was your intention.
That was my intention. Thank you. And anybody that as of today is eligible to retire under the current policy, there would be no changes to your minimum. You would not have a minimum age requirement. Is that okay? You still okay with that?
Yes. I second it.
Any discussion before I call for a vote? And if this doesn't pass, we'll consider something else. I'm just getting you started. If there's no discussion, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of making a change and stair-stepping in these new minimum retirement age birthdays based on your birthday, with no change to those employees as of today who have already met eligibility requirements, say aye. Opposed? I didn't hear enough ayes or nays. I'll give you, I got a comment from Thomas. I'm giving Philip a moment to think about it. I didn't hear anything from you.
We're voting on your
Voting on my motion. I have a second. So really, I've got the 3 votes, but I wanted to see, just for the record, if there was anybody else that was going to go along with that, or if I had a 3-2 vote.
Still no.
Okay, I've got a 3-1, and I'm going to give Commissioner Hinton a moment to ponder this. And ask any questions.
That's what I like, but no.
Okay. All right, motion passes on a 3-2 vote. So that's one item down. That behind us, let's move forward to, should the county consider an alternative insurance coverage for these retirees under this current and new policy?
Judge, if that's something that you think you want to do, what I would suggest the way you handle that is we get Steve Capps to go get us some prices.
I'm just trying to force some conversation right now to see if there's no support for this idea, I'm not going to waste my time on it.
Right. But if that's the way you think you might want to.
Absolutely, we would want to get some, and I don't know if there'd even be a way to create a group policy for retirees, or if we would have to simply purchase individual policies and they would have to qualify on a case-by-case basis. Because if you had a retiree that was deathly ill, you may not be able to get coverage for them.
Well, under Obamacare, I don't think they can be denied coverage for pre-existing conditions. That's not to say it might not cost you $10,000 a month, but I don't know those rules. Steve would have to guide us through that.
Okay. All right.
Could we make a motion to check with Capps and see what the cost would be for?
Well, you're obviously going to need to know those numbers before you could vote yes.
You're going to have to know the numbers.
Yeah.
You can't go into this not knowing.
So you could make a motion to go get the figures and bring it back.
Well, I thought that's what they was going to do. When they
we're going to have an insurance deal on October 3rd.
Do what now?
October the 3rd, aren't we having an insurance meeting?
Yeah, part of that discussion is going to include discontinuing our self-funded plan and going to a standard insurance arrangement. In this discussion, I'm simply talking about how do we cover retirees that are eligible for health insurance benefits. Do you want to even consider carving them out of our self-funded plan, should we choose to continue to be self-funded, and putting them on individual policies?
Well, I think we need some prices.
Okay.
Somewhere.
If that's your directive, that's what I'll get you some insurance.
We need some kind of premium cost before we voted.
Okay, and when I go to Steve, do you want me to say, I want you to get me some prices on a comparable policy with comparable benefits?
True.
Okay. All right, I'll work on that. No motion required there.
You don't think we could ask Blue Cross Blue Shield to give us a?
Oh, yeah, that's what I plan to do.
Yeah.
Well, more than just Blue Cross, I'd like to get a quote from UMR, Aetna, Blue Cross. Just give us an idea of what it's going to cost. You know, we may be shocked at what similar coverage for a 60-year-old costs. It may be something where you go, oh, forget that. I'm not paying $3,000 a month to get, and be prepared for it to be a very high figure. Okay. Item number 6 is now the discussion. Should the retiree's spouse and or children be included in the retiree health insurance benefit? Should it be eliminated? Should they be charged more? Any changes?
I think if you're going to go with the grandfather and the other group in, you probably need to go ahead and grandfather that group in too.
Okay.
And then after change it with the ones that, what the change we've already made after January the 1st.
Okay, for those already eligible to receive retiree health benefits, no change to spouse dependent coverage. All right.
Is that a motion?
I need to make a motion on that.
Well, let's roll that into some other stipulation. And I don't mean to be rushing you on an important decision like this, but I'm just trying to stimulate some conversation here. You understand what the issue is we're not funding a full amount on an employee's that chooses to retire's spouse. We're charging them significantly less. I want to say less than $300.
No,
I think it's
it's $385.
It's what?
I think it's $385.
No, that includes that includes more than a spouse. If it's spouse only, I believe it's cheaper than that.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's $250, $300 per spouse.
Emily, what he said was he thinks that we're just charging for all of our employees that choose to have spouse coverage, whether they're a retiree or a currently employed person. The cost to them is less than $300 to cover their husband or wife.
Right.
And that is less than by half what we're setting aside for the employee.
Right. It's less than half. I know.
In other words, they're getting a real bargain on spouse coverage.
Right.
And you know, next year when you do your insurance, you may have to change some of that too. You may have to go up on all that stuff.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. That's part of the discussion in October is, do you want to change some deductibles? Do you want to change the premiums you're charging for spouses? And you know, the way we're doing it right now is we're charging an incremental number for every child. Some of them charge less for the children and more for the spouse. We don't do it that way, but we certainly have the option of making changes to any of that in October for January 1st.
Well, and those kind of needed dollar adjustments really stand alone in relationship to this, what I'm asking you here. Here we're talking about, are you going to make any changes to retiree benefits, spouse family coverage? You know, chances are if you get somebody that has to be 54 and ultimately 60 years of age, they're probably not going to have a child that's still covered, but they can certainly have a spouse that's still covered. And so...
And that person's been here 20 years, and the spouse has paid her insurance rate, been a part of the system all this time. Now, I can see where you have a spouse that decides to quit and she wants to get on her job and she wants to get on her husband's insurance. I can see a problem with that. But whoever's been here and their wife's been on that spouse and they are at home raising a family or something, they've been part of the system for a long time.
Okay.
well, I certainly think there needs to be a higher premium for them. I mean, they need to grandfather them in, and they should have to pay a higher.
Would you charge a retiree spouse more than an employed spouse
I would.
premium?
Are you saying grandfather those that qualify
That's what I said,
now?
all the people.
He's already stated that. If you're eligible today and you could retire at this very minute and receive health insurance benefits, there's no changes to you.
But I just think the retiree spouse, you should have to pay more for that, you know.
Well, I'll save my comments for another time.
Well, I don't want to keep shoving this forward. we're going to have enough to deal with when we start talking about health insurance at that October 3rd meeting. Let's kind of have some decisions made as to how we feel about providing health insurance to retired spouses.
If they've been on the insurance and been paying faithfully and been there from the time their spouse has started work here, and they've been on the insurance, I think they should be able to stay on the insurance.
How about any new employee after October 1 of this year?
As long as they know up front, I don't have a
Okay,
problem with that.
what would be the rule if that's what we chose to do? Anybody that's not currently employed, all new employees after, say, October 1, how do you want to treat them?
Well, if the court decides not to have insurance for their spouse, they know up front that their spouse is not going to have insurance. Then they want to do that, they can. If they don't, they say, you know, I can go over here and work and my spouse will have insurance, I'll go over here.
All right. I'm going to throw out a motion here. My motion.
Long as, you know, they know up front that their spouse is not going to have insurance, I don't have a problem with that. I think we're going to lose some good people, but what the court decides.
Well, how would you lose them? You mean, in other words, somebody might not come and apply here?
I was going to go to work and I was going to make a career out of working here at the county and giving my best effort for the county and doing everything possible to make this the best county in the state of Texas, and my spouse has insurance, and when I retire, she's not going to have insurance. If somebody else offered me a job that she would, I'd take that other job.
I don't know of another employer anywhere around here that's going to have that kind of coverage. Now, I don't know under Obamacare if we're going to be forced to provide spouse coverage. Don't know.
And I don't know what the city does for the retirees.
You want me to take a moment and go call somebody?
Yeah, you can call Brenda and ask her. 575-4000. You know what they do? You don't know what they do?
We'll take a 5-minute break.
Yes, sir.
That's a no vote. That's a no vote. It's over? A no vote. When you get together, that's a no vote.
When did he turn 66?
Because I know before he was talking about this is really his primary issue, and I thought he would turn that out. You know, he was saying, he made a comment one time that
He was still.
Yeah, why? But will it do any good if I call him and say, hey, well, y'all still under signs up? You're going to make this more people behind me. It's dangerous. You've been out there enough. You know how fast they drive on that road.
Well, yeah, I know, and we talk about it every meeting, so. I just call Washington.
I mean, if he was out there and...
No, he's out there, he was out there Tuesday.
Yeah, but, you know, right now, there's no need to It's going to be bad. But the guy did say they will work on it. I mean,
They supposed to have it ready for school by Monday.
well, see, yeah, there's one place from Ray's house down, there's 2 foot of that line covered up, and then it's a deep right there. You have to get over.
I told them that. Go down, you need to go fix those
Well,
today.
they said they're going to work on it. I'm going to
A couple of those sheets by your
speed limit sign.
so you can see what they're
And whether or not they dropped them, I don't know. I'm just saying what the guy said.
And I don't know if there's a standard policy for construction. I don't know if it's all, or if all that's got to be done in Austin by the commission, because it's change speed limit on any state road. They've got to change it down there. That's right, but they've already, but that might have already been done through the commission before they ever started lower those speed limits. I don't know that.
Well, it looks like the work zone. I'm not on the rest of the road. Except for the that don't make as much traffic on it's 271. It's going.
I know what. I just called Roger. All of that may have to be done when they approve that. I don't know that. Those things I don't know. I just know that they don't change it on the state highways unless the commission does it. And I'm assuming anytime they have a work zone.
Well, you would think that would just be standard when you have a work zone.
Hey, and not anything standard with text box.
Everything I do with the state is
It's nothing.
they don't think things through before they pass their laws.
They don't have a standard.
But that is concerned because, I mean, they fly.
Oh, I know they do.
They fly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure myself, I'm not sure what they finish that whole section of the loop if they just get trapped in the road back.
Well, that's what we told them. They could, but
Who
they.
cares? But they're.
Oh, I know it. I know it. You know, it looks to me like, and it's like I said yesterday, I don't understand dragging your rear end when it's costing you money. I don't understand it. They do.
No, I mean, because, yeah, I know the times they're talking on the other side, but they've got all this equipment, so our guys use it. Don't let it sit. But this, like Mike said, when the, this quote is it's gonna be working 24/7, believe me, they're not even out there 24/7. Because I passed by there too many times.
Yeah, they.
And, it's, you know, that's what's frustrating, because they haven't.
They told me the other day that, and all of those guys, Longview Bridge is, to me, is one of the worst construction companies there is. And the biggest part of those, all those superintendents came from, and road, and dirt people came from Longview Bridge. And that's where they just drag their rear end about things.
I don't understand.
I don't either.
And are you walking away with a smile or a frown or what?
No, I'm okay with
When you leave, we're gonna change it all, though. We're gonna change it all when you leave. I'm just kidding.
I had a group come to talk to me yesterday that didn't even really, they were mixed up. They thought we were talking about retirement, so I hope I got them straight on that.
But I mean, I think the ones, the younger ones, were looking at longer, the older ones that were concerned with what it would be like. But, I mean, anything less.
Well, once we got past the fact that we're not talking about your TCDRS retirement, it's like the light switch clicked.
It's just insurance.
But you understand one thing, 3 or 4 years from now, if we got a whole new court up here, they could change the whole thing.
I know they could, I mean, I realize that they do too, but with your grandfather and stuff like it's been done, I think everybody
It's gonna be pretty quick. We couldn't have much left, could we?
Huh?
I would think we should be through by 12.
I guess what's 25 minutes.
Judy, do you have any questions about what's being done? That,
I don't, I mean, it's like.
concerns you?
It was the young ones that were, like Leanne's 4 years, Renee 8, they were the ones concerned that when they get ready to retire, of course, you know, there's not that many people gonna retire that young without.
Well, see, Philip's got in the same situation.
Yeah, I do.
He's gonna be in his 40s, and he's been here 26 years. He should, yeah. My understanding, he's grandfather here. And that's being fair with him, that, and I appreciate that. That grandfathering in,
I've got a lot of writing to do, and this is ours.
okay.
I hope you remember it all.
Oh, that's where that tape coming in.
All right. We back? Anybody out in the hall? Emily, is anybody else coming back that needs to be in here? Okay. All right, good conversation I had. All right, listen up. Are we back on live recording there, Carolyn? Yeah, get our audio video technician.
We can put that in a contract that even after he's gone, he still has to come up here and do that. Part of his lifetime commitment.
Surely we could retrain somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Sure we're still recording.
Will.
Okay. All right. I spoke with Darlene Denman, head of Human Resources and the resident expert on their health insurance. Here's some information we were a bit wrong, or we had gotten bad information. 62 years of age is their minimum age you must be at in order to have your health insurance premiums paid. And then they pay at 62 to 65. So they can retire before they reach the age of 62, but they have to pay the full premium. And they have to be 62. We've just voted on 60. They require 62. She said, I don't know where you got to 58. It hasn't changed recently. Maybe she's remembering something from years ago, but as far as Darlene knows, it's been that way. All right. Their spouse coverage.
You can retire. You're talking about the city?
We're talking strictly about their health insurance being paid for a retiree.
You can retire at 58.
Right. Well, they can retire earlier than that.
Well, that may have been what Brenda was giving you. But what Darlene was telling me, she said, for example, I'm fully vested. I've been with the city 25 years as of today. So if you see Darlene, tell her congratulations. Today is her 25th anniversary. She says, I could retire today, but I wouldn't have my health insurance premiums paid for by the city.
She would just draw her
State retirement, and if I wanted to continue on the city's health insurance, I'd be paying the COBRA rate, whatever that was. But if I was 62 today, I could retire, and they would pay for me for 3 years.
They got the option of paying the premium.
Yes, yes. Okay, I said, who pays for your spouse? She said, the employee pays for 1/2 of the spouse coverage, and I'm not talking about retirees. It's the same for a retiree or a current employee. They pay for 1/2 of the spouse's coverage, and the employee and the city each split that. And if they're a retiree that has reached 62 years of age, it's the same deal. They can have that 50% benefit paid for between years 62 and 65.
They're on the plan. They're on the Blue Cross type.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and that 50% might end up costing that employee more as those premiums rise. All right, I said, okay, well, tell me about your plan. What's your deductible? $1,500. $1,500 deductible, whether you're in or out of network. Copay, $30 for a doctor visit. We have 25. We have a 90/10. What do you call that? You don't call that copay. What's the term for that? Theirs is 75/25.
What did you say that one more time?
They have a $1,500 deductible compared to our $750. They have a $30 copay for a doctor visit. We have 25, and we pay 10%, the county pays 90% once we reach our deductible. Theirs is 75-25. So.
Now, we have two different ones. We have a 90-10 in network.
And an 80-20.
Maybe
60-40 or
60-40.
network.
But there is a maximum out of pocket. And I'm sure there's a maximum out of pocket too. I think our maximum out of pocket is
45.
They may. I didn't get into those. I didn't get into those details.
45, I don't remember what.
So, you know, before we go and shoot to be as good as the city's coverage, we're already exceedingly better. Okay. We were on retiree spouse benefits. No, I didn't ask that.
There, if I remember when I talked to them, and I don't have my notes, but it was, they have, like we have each dependent, a spouse, and then one child or something, we have to pay extra. Theirs is a flat rate where they have 3 or 5. And I think that includes spouse and kids, and it's like $369 a month. That's the employee has to pay that.
But the thing that we don't know about, if the insurance, if that carrier goes up on those things, they're still paying half of it, and it could be a lot more than just.
That's right.
Yeah, if they have year after year of bad claims, those premiums are going to be going up.
Right.
Oh,
More and more is passed on to that employee.
More than they were a year ago. I mean, the city is more. Not a lot, but it's more.
All right.
When you go to an individual insurance company, they're in it to make money. They're not in it to lose money.
That's my assumption. All right. In light of that additional information, maybe that helps you decide what you want to do with retiree spouses.
So they do cover retired spouse. They pay 50/50
Yes.
on the retired spouse.
From age 62 to 65. Must be 62. So their term of exposure is 3 years. We voted on ours to be 5 years.
That's for all new employees, those not grandfathered in.
That's what we're talking about right now. For new employees that do not currently work for the county, my personal opinion is we don't pay for spouse coverage.
At retirement. But when they're working,
I'm only talking about at retirement.
make sure.
The only one we're paying for are the ones that's grandfathered in.
Right.
If you currently work for the county as of this very moment, and you meet the minimum retirement age that we've already voted upon, we're going to continue to provide your spouse coverage at whatever the allocation rate that we use at that given point in time.
Which can be changed every year.
Yeah, which can be changed. And that'll be something we'll visit in the future, is do we need to increase the employee cost of dependent coverage? But we're not discussing that right now.
And what you're saying is after new hirees will not be covered spouses.
That's my suggestion.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
I just want to get in my mind what you're saying.
I think that's an awful unnecessary cost to the county. I don't think that that's going to be a factor in a person deciding whether or not to come to work with this.
2015, correct?
Well, you can wait until then, along with when this other policy kicks in, or you can do it as of today or October 1. That means any employee that gets in under the wire between now and January 1 would be grandfathered in. But if they came to work this morning, they're covered.
I'd say
January 1.
Okay. Well, I haven't put it in the form of a motion yet. I'm just I'm voicing my personal views on this, which are, again, that retiree health insurance benefits be limited to the employee, not to any family members, for new employees after January 1, 2015.
I think that's fair. They knew it when they got them.
Anybody else have a problem with that before I make a motion? I'll just go ahead and make the motion. My motion would be that a change to the employee or to the retiree health insurance benefit plan would be that any employee hired after January 1, 2015 would not be eligible to have any spouse or family members covered by county insurance during their retirement, post 60 years of age retirement. This has no effect on employees working for the county. We're only talking about once they make the choice to retire and they're having their personal insurance paid for by the county. I don't feel that the county should have to pick up any cost beyond just that employee.
And could they pay for it themselves, this new employee? They work here 30 years.
I don't want that. I don't want to pile that liability on the county. That's why I'm saying no to that. Okay. So there's a motion. Let me state it one more time. The motion is effective January 1, 2015, any retiree who meets the requirements of receiving county paid for health benefits, those benefits are limited to the retiree only and do not extend to spouse or dependents. Okay. Okay, I knew I left something out. For anyone hired after anyone hired on or after January 1, 2015, their spouse is not eligible for health insurance coverage during their retirement years.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor of that new policy say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. You got that? Joyce, you got all that? That was a 4-1 with Commissioner Fields voting no. And if you want to read it over and read it back to me, we can listen and see if you think you've got that right, because I'm not sure I've got it right. Yeah, read what you've got just so I can hear it, and we'll.
Effective the year January 1st, 2015, all eligible retirees, spouse, and their children are not eligible for county insurance coverage during their retirement years.
New hires. New hire.
For any
No, that would be
employee hired on or after January 1, 2015.
Did we not already, just before that though, did we not already have that we were grandfathering those in that are already eligible to receive employees?
Yeah, and so I guess effectively she's accomplishing the same thing, but just so we clarify, for any employee hired on or after.
Grandfather means that they're eligible right now.
That part,
But
those
you
that are
can
already
have employees that are here right now that aren't eligible yet.
anybody hired on or after January 1st.
Because you're not,
We're removing spouse and dependent coverage for retirees for anyone hired on or after January 1, 2015. I think that it does, the way you had it. Well, no, new employees cannot have their spouse covered. Yeah. If you're a current employee, if you're an existing employee on January 1 at midnight, your spouse can have the same coverage that it's offered right now. Emily?
Yeah, you're talking solely, if I'm hired, say, 10 days from now,
Okay.
then my spouse will be covered.
Yes.
Could be.
if when you stay long enough to qualify for the time, which might be 4 years now, or 95. Because sometimes, especially law enforcement, they're liable to hire some guys that are in their 50s. You know, we're thinking about just hiring guys in their 20s. That's not necessarily always the way it works.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will do that. See, in their 50s now.
September 2nd.
Okay. For now, we're not going to deal with considering a Blue Cross type fixed premium policy. We're pushing that discussion forward. Yeah.
For retirees.
Or anybody else, but yes, specifically for retirees. So what we've done today is we've created a new minimum retirement age that's been phased in, and we have eliminated the benefits previously afforded to the spouse of a retiree for new hires after January 1/15. Is there anything else that we want to discuss today? I'm looking at the rest of these questions. I think we've accomplished the things that I had on my agenda.
I don't have anything else.
Anybody else? I appreciate your discussion, contribution, and arriving at what I think is a reasonable outcome. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Hockaday and a second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Thank you.